Coming up, three different series and seasons come to an end. This is Locked On Now NBA.
The biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
What's up, everybody? You are listening to Locked On Now NBA, local experts with the biggest stories on the hardwood. I'm your host, Daniela Bruce, and thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. Our Locked On NBA hosts are here to recap all of the playoff action from Thursday. The Suns closed out the Pelicans in last night's biggest game.
The biggest game.
The Phoenix Suns ended the New Orleans Pelicans season last night, and Phoenix now looks ahead to Dallas in the second round. Our Locked On Suns host tells you how Phoenix put away New Orleans.
The Phoenix Suns are headed to round two, and we know their opponent. After a perfect from the field Chris Paul game in Game 6 in New Orleans, a healthy Devin Booker returning from a hamstring strain, the Suns just rolled like they are used to doing, especially late in that fourth quarter. Chris Paul 14 of 14, Devin Booker 5 of 12. He looks healthy though. He played full minutes, and the Suns are on to round two after a tough, admittedly way tougher than I think any of us expected, 6-game round one series against New Orleans, and Dallas will be the opponent. The Dallas Mavericks, the team that all the way back in 2018 was the subject of a lot of controversy, a lot of discussion regarding the number one overall pick. There's been something of a little bit of a rivalry, but really, the Suns have owned the Mavericks in the regular season ever since 2018. Mikal Bridges is pretty good defending Luka Doncic. DeAndre Ayton will have an advantage against this small Mavericks roster. So the Suns look themselves, the Mavericks are rolling too, and it should be a fun, competitive, very different second round series here in Phoenix starting Monday with Game 1. For more on these Suns as they go through round two, listen to Locked On Suns wherever you get podcasts.
The Pelicans season comes to an end, but Locked On Pelicans is excited for the future after taking the top seed to 6 games.
The Pelicans season finally ends losing to the Phoenix Suns, but keep an eye on New Orleans in the future. I'm Jake Madison, host of Locked On Pelicans and Locked On NBA. It was a hard-fought series for the 9th-seeded New Orleans Pelicans, but the Suns are a 1 seed for a reason, and even without Devin Booker being 100%, they still managed to close out Game 6 after a 10-point deficit at half. Not much you can do when Chris Paul is literally perfect in the game. Goliath, more often than not, does beat David. But keep an eye out for this Pelicans team next year. They played the Suns tough, and each game was winnable for them in this series. And when you factor in that 3 rookies played significant and meaningful minutes, Zion Williamson going to be back next season, and Brandon Ingram averaged 27 points per game in the series. Well, the future looks bright, especially with a top 10 pick giving New Orleans all sorts of flexibility this offseason. So for more on this gritty Pelicans team, be sure to check out the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
The Mavericks won their series as well and will meet Phoenix next. Luka Doncic helped put away the Jazz in Utah, and Locked On Mavs recaps that win.
The Dallas Mavericks win their first round series in the playoffs since 2011 after beating the Utah Jazz in Game 6. Nick Angstead from the Locked On Mavericks podcast here, and it was a tale of two halves for the Dallas Mavericks. First half, nothing going right for them at all on offense. Scored 15 points in the first quarter. The Jazz were penetrating into the paint every single time they were driving. It was a brutal defensive effort from the Dallas Mavericks. And then in the third quarter, the Mavs go off for 36. They hold the Jazz to just 19. It was another second half adjustment time for Jason Kidd. Sean Sweeney and his staff did an incredible job to change up what the Mavericks were doing. And again, the Mavericks win a game this season by only winning one quarter. They only won the third quarter of this game, but hold on to win this game with a couple of big plays down the stretch from Dorian Finney-Smith. Luka Doncic, just 24 points, was held to 8 of 21 shooting in this game, but still found ways to win this game. And the Mavs made a bunch of mistakes. There's a lot of room for improvement in this Mavericks team. They squeaked by in this one, but they get the win. They win the series. They move on. This group finally wins a first-round series. And now they move on to play the Phoenix Suns in the second round, who will be a tough matchup. We'll have all that and more on tonight's Locked On Mavs.
The Toronto Raptors got blown out by the Sixers last night in their game 6, and that series is now done as well. The 76ers move on to face the Miami Heat, while Locked On Raptors reviews the season as it comes to an end for Toronto.
Season over. Sean Woodley here from Locked On Raptors to break down the Toronto Raptors' 132-97 loss to the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 6 of their series here in Toronto at Scotiabank Arena to end a really encouraging, awesome, interesting, fun season for this Raptors team. It's pretty low stakes, low sadness levels for Raptors fans right now. This was a season that came in with a Vegas over-under of 36.5 wins. They go on and win 48 games. They have a transcendent rookie season from Scotty Barnes, who looks very much like he's on the road to superstardom. They get Pascal Siakam with a massive, massive bounce-back season as well. Truly incredible stuff from him. Likely he's going to make All-NBA at this rate. And then you got Fred VanVleet making All-Star as well. Lots of internal growth, lots of positive storylines. Disappointing finish to the season that kind of revealed some of the things this team lacks, of course. They need some more shooting, and they desperately need to find a way to keep Fred VanVleet healthy throughout the season. He had such a heavy burden, and they badly missed him as their offense dried up, and they desperately could have needed his three-point shooting and ball handling to help grease the wheels against the Sixers defense that was totally locked in. Credit to the Sixers in Game 6. James Harden was fantastic for them and really kind of got the ball rolling, and his offense, his scoring punch, made it so the Raptors had to adjust the scheme where they were guarding him in single coverage for most of this series, and it was working really well. They had to revert back to sending extra help his way, ended up with a three-point barrage on one end that the Raptors just didn't have the shooting and the math really on their side to make up. So some things to work on in the offseason. Internal development will likely fix a lot of those problems, but nothing but good vibes, frankly, after a wonderful season for the Raptors. I'll have more as we head into the offseason and break it all down and talk about Game 6, of course, on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Raptors. Be sure to tune in.
That's all today for Locked On Now NBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. Now that you're done here, make sure your second listens are Locked On NBA and, of course, your team's local Locked On podcast. I'm Daniela Bruce, and this has been Locked On Now.